February the 2nd, 2026. I note for the record that school board member Mr. Street from District 2 is absent, and we are not expecting him later. There is a request from a school board member to join this meeting electronically. According to School Board Policy B-double-D, Ms. Gloria Carlenio, District 3 School Board member, requests to join the school board public hearing meeting electronically from her home located in Fort Valley due to the likely precarious conditions on the roads and her driveway tonight due to the expected melting and then refreezing of ice on the roads. Members of the school board may use remote participation instead of attending a meeting in person if, in advance of the meeting, each member seeking to use remote participation notifies the chair of that, and that box was checked off early this morning. However, I need a motion to allow Mrs. Carlenio to participate electronically.
I move to approve Ms. Gloria Carlenio to participate on via Zoom.
Thank you, Mr. Rickett. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
And there is a second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Welcome to the meeting, Ms. Carlenio. Item number 2 is the approval of the agenda, and the chair seeks a motion to that effect.
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second. All in favor of approving the agenda as printed and as presented, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And the agenda is presented. We now go to Section 3, which I know all of you are anxiously awaiting, the pre-budget public hearing and funding request. The public hearing is scheduled today. It has been moved from January the 26th. It is scheduled for today. The Shenandoah County School Board welcomes public comment from Shenandoah County residents, parents, or guardians, as well as from current students and employees of Shenandoah County Public Schools. School board members do not respond to public comments during this part of the meeting. Time. Each speaker may speak for up to 3 minutes. The board generally allows up to 30 minutes for public comments on agenda and non-agenda items at the beginning of the meeting. If there are a large number of speakers, the board may limit the total time for comments and/or may reduce the time allotted to each speaker. All comments should address a matter related to the Shenandoah County Public Schools. Complaints regarding division employees should be directed to the school principal and appropriate school division official. The school board expects each speaker will be courteous, modeling for our students how one can respectfully disagree with others' views. Speakers will address their comments to the entire school board and not to one individual school board member, to the superintendent, to a staff member, nor to the audience. Speakers will not engage in personal attacks. Speakers have signed up. They will proceed to the microphone directly behind Mr. Long. Thank you. To speak at this public hearing, the school board clerk will have ascertained speakers to indicate their role as stakeholders and valid addresses. Speakers are called in the order in which you signed up. If time allows, the chair may allow comments from individuals who have not signed up. A speaker may not speak more than once on a specific topic. Speakers who wish to speak on more than one must submit a separate request for each item. If you, as a speaker, would like to present written comments to the school board, 8 copies should be provided to the school board clerk as the speaker approaches the podium to speak. And it appears that the first person to speak is Robin Stout.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Robin Stout. I am a parent at Sandy Hook Elementary School. What I would like to discuss with you today are my growing concerns for the students' learning environment, health, and safety, and teachers' planning space. My child has expressed for the past couple of years while working or studying in the hallways has made it difficult for her to focus and at times complete work due to the lack of classroom space. Children should be provided with enough classroom space to enhance their learning and have fun doing it. I believe children thrive best in these learning environments. It helps to boost creativity and social skills. Even though modular classrooms have been provided, I, as a parent, am very concerned for the children and teachers to have to walk out to these buildings in bad weather conditions. Then when they are inside, do not have access to running water. This will be a continuous interruption to their learning environment, as they will have to take the time to re-enter the school building to use the restroom. This will also limit students' hydration, which improves cognitive function and memory. This ultimately enables proper hygiene to wash hands if hand sanitizer is not provided in the classroom. This could lead to more illness, which will cause students to be absent and miss in-school instruction. My last point is for our teachers. We have a wonderful group of teachers at our school who deserve a quiet and organized planning space to focus on preparing lesson plans for their students to thrive academically and socially. Our teachers go above and beyond right now to assure our students are achieving academic goals. A quiet space will boost morale and reduce stress for a more relaxed environment, improving student academic performance. For our students' academic futures and teachers, I urge you to please consider a new centralized elementary school so that our current building can be renovated. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Stout. Up next, Ann L. Weinking.
Good evening, school board members and Dr. Shepard. Tonight I am here to advocate for all of the students and staff of our 3 elementary schools to move forward with the necessary funding needed to begin the process to construct a new elementary school, preferably in Maurytown. This plea is no longer a want, it's an urgent need, and the thought of expanding the existing elementary schools would be the same Band-Aid approach that has gotten us to this critical place. Tonight it's up to you to either continue down the same pathways that have led us to these numerous urgent needs, or demonstrate some level of wisdom and financial intelligence to move forward with the new elementary school, so we can attempt to save the buildings we have and properly renovate them, but not to expand them. Expanding these schools will only continue to worsen the issues we already face. There will be increased traffic congestion, longer lunch periods, large classroom sizes, more discipline issues. There's no auditorium for assemblies or after-school programs. And the research supports that larger elementary schools negatively impact student academic achievements and growth. The current Shenandoah County Public School journey towards success will only be successful if these funds are invested right now where the need is the highest in our elementary schools. In October of 2025, I stood before the school board members and provided visual evidence of why we needed to build a new elementary school. There was backed up sewage, there's mold, soiled and stained carpeted classrooms, leaking roofs, and fluctuating temperatures due to deteriorating HVAC systems. Now, 15 months later, we've only had maybe 8 classrooms with new vinyl installed, and the trailers that have just recently arrived on our school property with no plumbing and no date provided when they will be usable. And the return of mold in the attached gym that was shut down just over a year ago for the same thing, but just a new shiny pan to catch the mold spores. I would like for you to explain to us tonight how our 3 elementary schools can be properly renovated and outfitted with the new HVAC systems, remove the carpet to be replaced with vinyl, roof and plumbing repairs over the summer breaks, especially when we have Kids Rec and summer school programs all year long. Our community is growing all around us, and we need to know that you have our backs by investing in what is needed now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Third speaker, Deanna DeVary.
Devani, hi. So well prepared. There were modular classrooms at my elementary school. I'm a mom at Sandy Hook. My son is an amazing person, But he has had a lot of behavior issues in his classes that has had a negative impact on his education. He's really loved his teachers, and they've all left, which breaks his heart. Let's see, what else? He does have random respiratory issues all winter long, which is suspicious. I've also have been told that maybe the security for lockdowns is not up to code or up to snuff, which is very concerning because he's had 2 lockdowns, which has been very traumatic for him. He still has like triggers with the bell that goes off. What else? See, I should have written stuff down. Community events. Our community events can't hold the community, which is just not great. What else? I feel like that's enough reason there. Yeah, I guess that's all I have to say, is that we just need another elementary school. The sanitary conditions are not great. I don't even like the location, how now that security is such an issue in elementary schools, it's all one road. It's terrifying, actually. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you. And batting cleanup, Jesse Pearson.
Well, good evening. Thank you, board members, superintendent, and all those serving Shenandoah County for this opportunity to speak. Thank you for your time and your efforts in serving Shenandoah County. I have a kindergartner currently attending Sandy Hook Elementary School. He's the 3rd generation of my family to attend the same school facility and the 4th generation to go through Shenandoah County Public Schools. I live in the neighborhood just past Sandy Hook. Because of that, I've experienced firsthand the impacts of overcrowding, not just in the classroom, but every morning and afternoon with traffic congestion, safety concerns, and inefficient traffic flow around the school. Last year, I witnessed a motor vehicle accident involving a school bus and a vehicle traveling from my neighborhood. The issues presented to students and staff at Sandy Hook are daily, real-world issues, and I'm cognizant of the internal challenges that teachers and staff face due to overcrowding and congestion. The northern Shenandoah County area is a growing community, a community situated at the intersection of 4 highly trafficked roadways. The issues presented in Strasburg and the surrounding area are not the same issues presented elsewhere. Because of this, we are often inadvertently tagged as the black sheep. We're not the financial, agricultural, or populous center of the county, and it's my belief that this frequently discredits our community and what we strive to do and accomplish. I want to express my strong support for the construction of a new elementary school. This is not just about relieving congestion, it's about providing young students with the learning environment that they need at the most critical stage of their education. Elementary-age children require stable, well-designed classrooms, space to learn and grow, and schools that are built for their development needs. Overcrowding at this level has long-term consequences, and addressing it should be a top priority. I want to respectfully ask why the process is taking so long. This board was having this exact same conversation a year ago, yet we are still discussing plans rather than seeing meaningful progress. The county even completed a tax reassessment, seemingly increasing revenues before we even have an agreement on a new school or renovations, contracts, or broken ground at any of our school facilities. We ought to have the funding now, I guess. Funny how it all works. Anyways, continued delay has a cost to students, family, and the community, and I believe we need clearer timelines, accountability, and forward momentum. As the school board considers broader facilities planning, I would also encourage thoughtful prioritization. For example, students attending Triplet Tech are teenagers who have the ability to learn in a variety of environments beyond the traditional classroom setting. They can go to a local body shop and learn real-world operations. They can visit a local restaurant or salon. I think you get my point. This flexibility should be weighed carefully when making funding and facility decisions, especially when elementary school students do not have the same adaptability. Thank you again for your service, your time, and consideration, the preferences of the families who are directly impacted by these decisions.
Thank you, Jesse. Did anyone walk in late and didn't sign up to participate in this hearing? Okay. Then we are about to adjourn this phase of our school board meeting. To adjourn the Shenandoah County School Board budget, pre-budget public hearing, the chair seeks a motion to adjourn this part of the program.
I motion to adjourn the pre-budget public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Shabby. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
We have 2 seconds. Mr. Rickard and Ms. Pence. All in favor of adjourning the Shenandoah County School Board pre-budget public hearing indicate by saying aye.
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 And opposed, no. And we stand adjourned until 7 o'clock for the regular meeting. We are good to go. I call to order the Monday, February the 2nd, also known as Groundhog Day 2026, Shenandoah County School Board pre-budget work session and meeting. I wish to note for the record that Mr. Street is not present, nor are we expecting him. According to School Board Policy BDD, Ms. Gloria Carlenio, District 3 School Board member, requests to join the School Board pre-budget work session meeting electronically from her home located in Fort Valley, Virginia, due to the likely precarious conditions on the roads and her driveway tonight due to the expected melting and then refreezing of ice on the roads. Members of the school board may use remote participation instead of attending a meeting in person if, in advance of the meeting, each member seeking to use remote participation notifies the chair. And as noted earlier, that box was checked way earlier today. For her to participate remotely, I will need a motion to that effect.
I'll move to approve Miss Gloria Carlenio joining the meeting via Zoom.
Thank you, Mr. Rickard. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And Mr. Scheibe seconds. All in favor of approving the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion is approved. And Ms. Carlenio, welcome to the meeting.
Thank you.
Item 2.1 is the approval of the agenda, and likewise, I need a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Pence. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Rickard seconds. All in favor of the motion to approve the agenda as presented, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And the motion is carried. Work session item number 3 is a discussion on potential major capital projects. Madam Superintendent.
Thank you. This is the same presentation that I did in January at the January meeting. So I'm just going to highlight a few of the slides, and then I'm going to turn it over to the architects who have been integral in helping prepare this information for the school board. So and again, I'm not going to go over this information, but it's on the agenda item if anyone is interested. But you'll notice that there, the number of students in 2012-13 was at the highest, and then we took a downward trend, and we have a little bit of an upswing. You can see the information on the number of students at our elementary schools for the last few years. You can see birth rate, and we're all over the place in birth rate from 378 to all the way to 538. This is a slide that we probably need to pay particular attention to. In Strasburg, we have about 320 homes that are on the books to be built. Which is approximately 145 students. It's not quite half a student per home. It's a little less than that, but it's about 145 students per 320 homes. Woodstock, we have approximately 873 homes on the books, and that would bring almost 400 students when you add the students from the 30 homes that are still left to be built in Edinburgh. And in both Strasburg and Woodstock, you notice that we have that those houses are being built. If you look at the housing development in Strasburg right across from Food Line, you'll notice that there are townhomes that are going up. And then also if you're heading south on 81 and you look to the right at exit 283 or whatever, you'll notice that there are townhomes being built there as well. So the discussion was really about what the cost at our last meeting was about the cost of what some potential a new elementary school would cost. Here are the numbers on the new elementary school, but a construction estimate would be around $43 million. It would be 90,000 square feet at $400 per square foot. And here is just some information about Sandy Hook Elementary School. Another consideration would be if we expanded Sandy Hook Elementary School, what would that look like? And our architects are gonna actually get into this a little bit more, so I will save that for them. But Sandy Hook Elementary School renovation, the construction estimate could be around $15 million. With some added space. W.W. Robinson, very similar information on W.W. Robinson. The red areas are the spaces that could be expanded on. And then you look at the project cost, which would be close to 18 million, or close to 19 million. And then Ashby Lee Elementary School. Again, very similar information. And the project estimate on expansion of Ashby Lee Elementary would be 14.2 million. So if you look at all of the proposals together, this is one of the slides that I'm going to spend a little bit of information, a little bit of time on. A new elementary school, if you look at the preliminary budgets, it could be about $45 million. If we did the renovations of the elementary schools without expansion, and these are just, these numbers are really high-level numbers because we really haven't gone into the school and pulled the ceiling tile and done, done all of that really in-depth work that you get into in the next phase of engineering and design. But you can see Sandy Hook Elementary School, a preliminary budget estimate could be $8 million. W.W. Robinson about $10 million, and then Ashby Lee Elementary School at about $8 million, and that's without expansion. So the total preliminary budget cost for a new elementary school and the renovation of existing elementary schools it could be between $60 million and $81.5 million, but the project estimates at a 30,000 foot view is $70 million. If you look at the right side of that slide, you will notice that the expansion and renovation of the elementary school, Sandy Hook Elementary School, about $15 million, W.W. Robinson, $18 million, and then Ashby Lee, about $14 million. So the total estimated cost for expansion and renovation would be between 42 and 54 million, and again, a 35,000 foot view. And you notice that if we looked at the more in-depth cost, it could be about $47.8 million. So then as we scroll on through the slides, this would be career and technical education. So again, information. We could do a renovation and expansion of the existing triplet tech. And here are the numbers there. The very final slide will show that all together, so I'm not going to spend much time on this slide. We could renovate the Mount Jackson Press Building and Triplet Tech. The Mount Jackson Press Building would give us about 60,000 square feet in additional space for our trades. And then here are some numbers there. And then we could have a new career technical education facility, and that would be in the center of the campus, and then we could do renovation without expansion. So if you look at the cost, and I'll spend a little bit of time on this slide, but if you look at the renovation and expansion of Triplet Tech, that cost would be about $38.6 million. If you did a renovation of the Mount Jackson Press Building and a renovation of Triplet Tech Building, that would be $38.7 million. And then if you did a new CTE facility and renovation of Triplet Tech, that would be $42.6 million. And just know that in those numbers, there were different numbers on the cost of the equipment to make those programs that they have there. Like the automotive equipment, the lifts and so on and so forth. If we had a welding program, the equipment that would go into that program as well. So And I do want to say before I get too far ahead of myself, is that the original vote on the major capital projects was going to be at the February 12th meeting. We have postponed that until the March 12th meeting so that all of our school board members can be here, but also to allow time to process the information that is going to be presented this evening and give the school board members any time to ask questions or seek clarification or whatever. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce the architects who helped put together this information, and they've got more information that they're going to share. But we have Dale Cupp from Miller Cupp and then John Mather from Mather and Daly, both near in Rockingham or Harrisonburg City. So please.
If I need the microphone, just tell me. So, Dr. Shepard really covered this very well, and I'll try to fill in some of the gaps, but there aren't many. So just to recap very briefly what we've done to get to this point. So over a year ago, we were asked to look at Triplet Tech. So at that time, what was really before us was how do we expand it, enlarge it, renovate it, what exactly could happen. So we're showing two boards here. We actually had a third option, but part of the intent was to show what could be done, and the one board is showing it pretty much contained to the existing building and the additions contiguous to it. The other board is showing the possibility of maybe trying to future-proof what happens. So the intent was we could build a separate structure that could be done without encroaching on the classrooms at the existing, and then students could move, and it would make it easier to phase things. So that study is a year old, essentially. So here more recently, it came to light that there'd be other options for Triplet, the Mount Jackson Press Building, the Woodstock property. So we also looked at that. Probably the Mount Jackson Press Building is best geared toward the diesel, automotive mechanics, body shop, construction trades, that kind of thing. The Woodstock property, perhaps, which would be a new facility, better geared toward the child care studies, cosmetology, criminal justice study, those kinds of things. So those two are a little bit apples and oranges, but the intent is they could take the pressure off of what happens at the main campus. In addition to Triplet, the technical education, we were also asked to look at the 3 elementary schools. So I'm probably going to hand this off to John here in a second, who actually did most of the heavy lifting on putting these plans together. But W.W. Robinson, of course, the bigger school of the 3, it's a bit more difficult to expand, but we do have ways to do it. Sandy Hook, likewise, we found ways to expand and react to the wish list, want list, need list that was given to us. Same thing at Ashby Lee. So I think what I'll do at this point is let John do a little more thorough discussion on this. So I'll step aside.
Well, it's an honor to be here. Thank you very much. I'm familiar with this room. We opened bids for your 3 high school renovations right there 20 years ago. 22.
25 years ago.
And to show you how times change, we renovated all 3 of your high schools while you used them. They were major renovations for $10 million apiece. But 10 million isn't 10 million anymore. But Dale and I have a really great history with assisting with your facilities, so we're super happy to be back. So I'm going to pick up where Dale left off, and that would be with your central campus. Okay, so what you're seeing here, Central High School, Robinson, Muhlenberg, and then this is property that you all own. It's empty right now, but we included it. So to segue from VOTEC to elementary, the option for the VOTEC satellite, I guess you would call it, would be on this property, a large property just to the south of Muhlenberg. Now it could be anywhere in here. We chose to locate it, you can see here where it could interconnect a roadway with Muhlenberg, so that one thing we heard at the central site, and I don't think you'll be surprised, is that we need to find a way to alleviate the traffic. You know, we have 3 schools of buses coming in, 3 schools of buses going out, 3 schools of cars coming in, going out. Almost all of them at some point are in this area of the site. So it's busy and it gets congested, and so we started to think in terms of how can we address 2 things, the VOTEC need, but also the traffic alleviation need on site by locating it in a way that there's another way out from the site. Something else we saw is that the school board owns property that makes a little dog leg right here and connects to, remind me of the name of the road?
Ox.
Yes, it connects there. And I gotta believe somewhere in the past, when the school board bought this property, they saw the wisdom to get another way out to the road. And so they left property that connects. So we could create another entry into the site from that road, and you could essentially shift the middle school traffic from here to here. They could come in, access their parking, into the bus loop, and now we've alleviated much of the traffic here and moved it over here in combination with the back way out that would go to the VOTEC. So while we're talking about school renovations and expansions, we're really also focused on vehicular flow. So there's some opportunities there that we think are I think worthy of investigation. This VOTEC, of course, we want to know what's going in it to develop a plan. It can get bigger or smaller. Space isn't a problem there. So great opportunity if that's the direction that you want to go. Okay, so now I think we'll get into some of the nitty-gritty of the elementary school. So I'm going to put Robinson up here. Very big elementary school, as you know. One of the bigger ones in the state. So Dale and I met with staff walked through the school. Some of the school board members were with us. Some of the members of administration were with us. And we heard a number of needs, and it was somewhat of a pattern. We heard it at generally all three. And in no particular order of priority, the first thing we heard was we need more serving lines for the kids. There's only 2, and because of that, your lunches start at like 11 and end at like, you can tell me, but it's late. And the kids are a little bit rushed because you've got to get so many servings, you know, in there because you only have 2 lines, right? So right off the bat, we're like, that's a bottleneck. So we're proposing, in this case, and you'll see it on the others, to add 2 more serving lines in the kitchen, and then expand the kitchen appropriately to service those lines. So there's renovations in the kitchen, 2 more serving lines, additional equipment space. Combined with that, we heard that the cafeteria multi-purpose room, which is kind of half cafeteria and half multi-purpose with a divider, really isn't adequate for either. The cafeteria needs to be bigger, and if it's going to be a multi-purpose room, it really probably should be all, you know, reserved for that. So our approach was to not only expand the serving, but take the entire room for a cafeteria, which would be the proper or correct size for the number of children that would be in that room eating. Something else we heard was that the stage was kind of antiquated, somewhat inadequate, and of course it's at one end of that room. So we sort of put that in the back of our mind that maybe we can combine a stage in another space somewhere else. As we went further, we were told that the gymnasium space is inadequate at Robinson. You have 2 spaces here and here, but neither one's very large. And when I was in there, there was like 2 full classes in here, like must have been like 40 kids, and pretty tight for, you know, when balls and things are flying around. So we started to think maybe you should construct a gymatorium, a gym and an auditorium with a proper stage with adequate size. So we identified this back corner as a place that we could do that. Another item that we heard, again at all 3, was we don't have enough space for special ed spaces. We're doubled up in many cases, sometimes in the same room without even a divider, where, you know, one teacher's working with a kid on one subject, and there's one right across the room in another, and there's no barrier. That's not very efficient for teaching. So we look for opportunities for more, you know, self-contained special ed rooms as we sort of filled out the plan. And you'll notice we did find those, and they're labeled. I know you can't see where you're sitting, but some of these smaller rooms are able to serve for those purposes. Something else we also heard at all 3 schools was that the movable walls between the classrooms are not soundproof at all, and it's disruptive. I guess at one time it was a good idea to do these big open plan team teaching, but that's not how it's being done now. So on the plan where you see these red new walls, it's where we're suggesting to replace those thin moving walls with permanent walls. Another thing that we saw at all three schools was that you have these open center areas. One is generally the media center or library, and the other is sort of a sunken forum type space. And what we heard from all three schools was we would prefer to enclose them with glass walls. And in both cases, they become, a teaching space, but also have some privacy and some sound control. There's been some injuries by people that have walked and stepped into the sunken area. I've heard of one, at least one, there's probably been more, where you hit it and you're down. So it's not even safe. So we do think something has to happen there. On this end, we're suggesting expanding this gym along with this gymatorium. So you have two gyms now, but they're both small. We're suggesting you have two that are a little bit bigger. Finally, on Robinson, we found that the administration area is pretty confined. It doesn't have good visibility to the bus loop, to the cars. So we're suggesting construction of a new admin suite right here that would have good control of the entries, good visibility, decent sized conference rooms, and more of a current space allocation for those functions. I know this will go very late if I spend this much time on every school, but this one is going to set a trend. You're going to hear some of the same things on the other schools. Okay, and obviously a fair question for Robinson is, at what point is big too big? I can't answer that, but this is big.
Mr. Mather, with what you've done there, I think it was 10 classrooms and 6 resource spaces. Do you have that number off the top of your head?
Well, we can count them. 10 classrooms, expanded gym, new gym, several resources, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or so, 6 if you count this one. Improved and larger kitchen, improved larger cafeteria. We also heard the need for adequate faculty workrooms, so we did add one here. And you'll notice we took the opportunity in the process of the additions to connect 2 wings that don't connect currently. So this building ends here, and this building ends here. By connecting, the whole school's a little more accessible, just for navigating.
How many square feet roughly would we be adding? Do you guys have a generalization? Is that here somewhere? But I have so many papers in front of me, I don't even know which one to look at.
I have the report here. There, we calculated 7,000 square feet of administrative expansion and replacement. So some of that's renovated space.
Okay.
Classroom additions, about 6,000. Multi-purpose, 2,500.
the gymnatorium and some of the special ed classroom was actually 15,000.
Okay, yeah.
And then other renovated space. One comment that likewise came up at several of the schools, things like the art room. Well, the art room isn't where it either originally was intended to be or got moved. And one thing that's desirable is to have plenty of daylight. So that's just one of the tedious concerns that came up at several campuses.
So that was about 33,100 square feet. So a little less than 35,000, roughly.
And as has been earlier stated, these were relatively high-level studies where we interviewed staff once or twice. Were these to become actual projects, I'm sure there'd be more meetings and more refining. But we wanted to try to get our hands kind of around them in a general way. So, we talked about Robinson. Let's go north to Sandy Hook. And I'll start with the site plan. And one thing you'll notice, as compared to Robinson, we have a lot more space around us to work with. Robinson's very tight. Sandy Hook has more space to work with. We heard many of the same concerns. I'll get into where we added, but you'll notice the way we're proposing to add spaces, we're connecting wings and hallways to again make the wayfinding and the navigating a little bit easier. So things we heard and saw at Sandy Hook, when we pulled up, there were buses wrapped all the way around, as I recall, Dale, double road. Just, you notice there's a need for maybe a little better situation for loading and unloading. So one thought we had is if we can add on to this building in a way to create a covered bus drop for the kids and the teachers, it would be a positive. We also noted that there was some opportunity in the administration and the kitchen and cafeteria wing to expand into the yard if needed. So if we go to the floor plan, just like Robinson, we heard about the problem that exists with serving. Only 2 serving lines, kids are rushed to eat, the space is tight. So again, we're talking about adding on to the kitchen to get 2 more serving lines, as well as the equipment space to serve those serving lines, and to expand the cafeteria so it's adequately sized. Now, they also had a little bit of concern about their stage, but unlike Robinson, they do have a newer gym. So the idea of building a gymatoria didn't seem appropriate because you do have already a gym. Now we could possibly look at putting a stage in one end of it to replace this stage. But in this case, for the purpose of this study, we suggested renovating this stage with the expansion of the cafeteria itself. Here we're looking at expanding and improving the administration suite, not only where it is, but expanding it. We're looking at opportunities for where it works best on site, expand the classroom. As Dale said, a music room works well on an end for sound, for one thing. And an art room here, again, for light. There's new classrooms connecting this wing to this wing, as you can see, which then creates a lobby and a bus drop area, which I think would be an enhancement. You'll notice that the foldable walls are being replaced, and then we're showing a connector, a new connector from the school to the gym. Like the other, like Robinson, we're suggesting enclosing the media center as well as the stepped area. Anything else you think of?
So based on my count, that's 11 classrooms and 9 resource rooms. And
That looks like it.
for Mr. Shiby's question, that's 20,000 square feet.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so, I know it's quick, but that's kind of a quick tour. Okay, as you leave, again, we've heard and saw many of the same things, but each site is different, which demands a unique approach at each site. As you see here, we do have a fair amount of open ground around the school for expansion. So as we start again, heard the same thing about the cafeteria and kitchen, inadequate on our serving lines. So once again, we're suggesting expansion of the kitchen and the serving and taking out the folding partition in the cafeteria so that you have a properly sized cafeteria. Removing the stage, and once again, we're suggesting pairing it with a new gymatorium on the end, which is here. So not only do they really need a new stage, but their gym is very small. It's right here. I would say it's sort of woefully unsized at this point. So it seemed appropriate to address both needs with that room. Let's see, we have classroom additions of the north end, as well as toward the bus loop.
Drink of water, yeah. So to your point, I think we're kind of arriving at about 20,000 square feet. Again, some of the space is intermingled with renovated space. Some of the exact numbers are hard to get at, but it's basically 20,000 square feet of added space.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And my numbers are 5 classroom spaces here at Ashby Lee, 5 resource rooms and an additional gym. So that's what I have there. So whenever we look at what are some of the things that would be renovated whenever you consider a renovation? So HVAC, painting, what does that include?
So 25 years ago, we added on to each of these schools. So even the newest portions of it are starting to age. The newer parts probably require a little less uh, tender loving care than the oldest parts, but still need upgrades. And Mr. Hensley has made us aware that a lot of the HVAC equipment has gotten to a point that you can't get parts, can't get upgrades from software, those kinds of things. So that's certainly and potentially an invasive part of the work. I think we budgeted in the neighborhood of 2.5, 3 million at each school. Well, obviously I'm underestimating because we're getting more current estimates that might be double that. So we do have contingency money built into the budgets, and that helps handle some of it. But yeah, that's one of the things that's pretty important. And from our end, we just haven't looked into that, but so much.
And when I look at kind of the scope that you went with, I see lighting upgrades, electrical upgrades, HVAC replacement / upgrades, plumbing repairs, parking lot and paving repairs. So
there is that list. We attempted to by line item respond to the request. So it's pretty darn comprehensive. The way we ultimately evolved the design, it just depends after further study. But yeah, electrical upgrades, LED lighting, things of that sort. A lot of the communication systems and locking systems, safety, all that, we try to do some degree of budgeting. So as you pointed out early, we're still flying at 20, 30,000 feet, but we think we're at least in the ballpark with estimates.
Well, in remodeling, whether it's a house or a particular building or large buildings like this, you don't know what you're going to get into until you open something up. So if you're up doing ducts, you might have truss repairs and things that you need. Or if you're doing the roofs, because I mean, I think that if you're tearing things off to move HVAC, you really, that's the time to work on the roof. So you don't have to move it at a later time, because that's a big expense too. So, you know, you have your work cut out for you trying to guess with a lot of this stuff. So how realistic are your contingency numbers? I mean, you know, I know that's a loaded question, but, you know, it's, you know, it's, I mean, we come in, could it be 5 times what you've added, or, you know?
I mean, generally, a 5% contingency is generally added to whatever budget. I mean, at this point, we're flying high.
Understood.
So, so it's more like 10% variation. So,
and I think in order to get a more accurate number, that's where the architectural design comes in. You know, we're at a conceptual design phase right now. If we move more towards the architectural and engineering design, then that's when we'll get a, you know, a number that's closer.
It of course needs to be noted that the work at each of these schools is potentially disruptive. So staging, phasing, those kinds of things also come into play. Some things can be built without disrupting the school day, but a lot of it, one way or the other, kids will need to be moved if we can accomplish all the work over summer session, that kind of thing.
I was going to make some sort of a sarcastic remark saying you can't guarantee you can't do this over summer break, but realistically, I don't see how that would be possible, you know, without there being some work done, because the vestibules and entrances, there were kids in the schools then. So, I mean, that would be a tall order to even get the rough work done in a 3-month period.
Yeah. But we, like I said, we experienced that at the high schools many years ago, and it was worked out.
Yeah.
It worked amazingly.
I'm not saying it's insurmountable or that it's even a problem. I just want everyone to realistically know that, this isn't going to happen in the blink of an eye.
Something
Did
else
you-
I would add, we also included window replacements and door replacements, exterior door replacements. The windows in the old sections are all single pane, which is very inefficient. And many of the doors are weather strips missing. Just not
Yeah, they've seen their day, yeah.
Did you all come up with any plans to put a new 4-lane bridge into Sandy Hook and Signal Mountain?
That, that was not a request. So now's the opportunity to ask the architects.
Well,
Yep.
do you want to talk about more?
Yes, please, let's do that.
So, really a kind of an exciting possibility. I guess it's called the Fields site, for the term. It's the park area in Morgantown. All fields are. Well, there's 100 some acres there. It's a huge site. As you can see, this is Route 11. This is the site here. These are the ball fields. So we were asked, could you place an elementary school there? And the answer is yes, there's plenty of room. After we drove the site, we think the least expensive place to build that school, if you choose to, is in this corner, because it's closest to the road. We can use an existing entrance that's now into the park. They need to be upgraded. It's relatively flat. So it's what I would call a pretty buildable site. So the answer really is yes, you could build a school there. And notice, how much site is still left. And it doesn't take long to start dreaming. Maybe 10 years from now, maybe 20, I don't know. That this could become the 4th campus. Right? There's enough room. So, just to give John a break. Yes, looking ahead, this could be developed, and there is indeed plenty of room. So this is a very, very preliminary, tentative layout, but there's opportunity to get high school, middle school parking. Maybe the parking changes to share it a bit better, but ample opportunity for play fields and so forth. So my crystal ball is just not bright enough to know what happens 10 years, 20 years from now, but it's probably inevitable as things creep this way from Northern Virginia and the District of Confusion, that population's gonna grow. So that, developing that campus, I think, might be a good thing to do. I realize it's nice that we have these 3 very distinct campuses with elementary school, high school, middle school together, and this one is kind of the in-between. But in addition to just looking to the future, that does take pressure off of the expansion at W.W. Robinson and Sandy Hook, and probably indirectly even takes pressure off Ashby Lee. So that's Yeah, it's nice to know one day could be done. At least we think, it's a nice possibility. Even if you never do this, this is still a good thing. The elementary school.
Approximately how many acres would the elementary school consume of the total acres there? 20?
Probably not even that. 10 to 15 probably, in that corner. Yeah, but we don't, our job is to lay up possibilities, not to put our fingers on the scale too much. We just want to show the possibilities, show the numbers. Of course, you all make the decision.
So from like a design standpoint, when the core deficiencies are corrected, like classroom space, HVAC, cafeterias, and electrical, does a renovated and expanded building function materially different from a new facility for instructional purposes?
Your grounds and maintenance people probably could answer that just based on what we did. Of course, some of those people may not still be around, but that's essentially what happened at the high schools 20 couple years ago, and these elementary schools. So I think the answer is yes, they certainly can function there. It's always desirable to build something from scratch and totally brand new and state of the art, and that's always what we like to handle. But I think there's some history here that the renovated school building certainly can function just about as well as if it's brand new.
But I think you hit on a point a little while ago that to properly renovate these elementary schools, there is going to be disruption in instruction. That's realistic.
There is, yeah.
If we built that new elementary school first and took half of Sandy Hook, half of W.W. Robinson, we could then properly renovate those elementary schools by moving kids.
Yes, yeah, it would help.
Yeah, takes enormous pressure off of the other two schools.
Yeah, you can vacate a group of classrooms, 5, 6, 10 classrooms at a time, and then renovate. That's going to not only have less disruption, but it will be more cost effective. Because the contractor, the more he can take at a time, the better his price.
Correct.
So,
Thank you.
So some of that same logic applies to Triplet and
Right.
the satellite campuses. You know, if indeed you split up some of the discipline, well, you're adding more staff, that's a consideration, but it suddenly makes renovating the existing building a whole lot easier.
Right. Thank you.
as I look at Robinson, we found places for additions, but we're almost at a point, I don't know where you go next. Like, if you look at the site of Robinson, it's pretty steep behind it. We have a road in front of it, a school to the left, a school to the right. You might say, this is sort of the last bit of additions you really have physical space for.
One thing I was looking at too, when we were talking about those earlier, we are taking away from playground space by expanding those buildings, are we not? Particularly that building in Ashby Lee.
Some, yeah.
Which to me, we can't afford. I mean, from what I understand, we don't have enough playground space as it is.
Yeah, there's a surface here that we're suggesting to keep and resurface the playground. We're not changing or affecting this area to the back or a limited effect on the playground to the north. Now, at Ashby, we sort of deliberately stayed away from the playground in the back. So,
which is also a drainage area.
yeah, but as you know, there's a pretty good size, there's a kind of a walking track and a playground here. We considered placing this in a gymatorium back here, but after thinking about it, we thought, well, really don't want to mess that area up. I'm sure it's used quite a bit. That's why we moved it from here to here. It didn't really affect the play area at all. This really is a record right here. Just want to point that out. The Robinson seems to be were you to do this, I feel like you're kind of getting to a limit, just where you can go. And I think educators would probably have debates over optimal elementary school size. I don't know what that is, but I've heard those discussions that, you know, someone might say optimal size for an elementary is maybe in the 600 or something like that. Probably, I don't know, based on staffing and management of the children. But, you know, that's something that's worth looking into, but I'm not really qualified to make that statement.
Just to add to the burden of the school board members trying to make decisions, you know, we have these various projects at each site, each campus, but it might be that there are some nuances to it that maybe, well, we do this amount here and go ahead and build this. And, you know, if you put it on a matrix, it probably generates 30 different options. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's like, and John and I talked about this earlier, on the one hand, just step back and decide what, aside from the money, which I know that's asking a lot, but if you can step back and determine, well, what would be the best option for all students, all curricula, et cetera, what would be the answer? And then maybe look a little closer and say, what's the optimum cost approach, and try to find some common ground.
Well, I appreciate the thoroughness that you guys have done in looking at all these options. You know, and it's clear to me with the walking through the buildings with you guys and with other people that we're past the point of that a lot of these things are wants. These are really needs, and having a hard time figuring out how to put off these needs, you know, because they've been put off for far too long. So I'll be following up with you guys with a few questions for sure. You know, because, you know, and then we have other questions we all have to think about, expanding, building. I mean, you know, we build a new elementary school, which certainly looking at the needs of the county going forward, we need that. But we can't staff the schools we have now. So that adds into that, how are we going to create more staff, or, you know, and all that. So we're kind of in a conundrum. So, you know, but we'll work on this very hard and try to come up with the concept too, because we're not deciding for now. We're really going to be deciding on the next 30 or 40 years of Shenandoah County. So, I mean, I understand the task in front of us. I really do, and I appreciate your thoroughness and in the detail. You know, for a 30,000-foot view, this is, you know, pretty good. I've seen ones that are that would make this one look like a 300-foot view. So, good job.
Any other questions? Any questions about Triplet Tech or the options there before we move on?
Thank you, guys.
Pleasure to meet you. I don't envy you.
You know, if we give them some raw material, violation.
Thank you.
So thank you. Feel free to stay for the next 3 hours while we finish up this meeting, or you can leave at any time.
Does it help to leave these boards, or, I mean, you've got the electronic stuff, but.
Yeah, I don't think we need them.
Are we moving on at this point to the next 3 hours then?
Yes, the 3 hour course.
Thank you all.
Item 3.2, Dr. Shepherd, a 30,000, is that the figure we're using? View of fiscal year 2027 budget.
Yes. All right. So again, this is the, a similar presentation that I did in January. So we'll skim through some of the slides fairly quickly and then land on some of the others and take a deeper dive. We always start the budget conversation with what are our division goals in academic achievement and growth, positive climate and culture, family engagement, community connections, recruit, support, retain enthusiastic professionals, and then high quality and adequate facilities and learning environments, which we just talked about at length. So the mission, the division vision, the division beliefs. And I highlighted this a little bit earlier, but you can look at the chart and see, you know, how enrollment over the last 13 years has trended. We had a downward trend, we had a slight increase, and just a slight decrease this last year. At our elementary schools, we're remaining about the same at all 3 of our elementary schools, even though we had a slight decline from last year to this year. Our middle schools are about the same. You will notice Signal Knob, an increase there, and Peter Muhlenberg from 2000, I think that's 21, 22. There's been a significant increase there at Peter Muhlenberg. About 70, 80 some students. And then we have our high schools. You will notice at Central High School, slight decrease. There are seniors that graduated last year, about 75 more seniors graduated than we have 9th graders this year. So a little bit of a decline there. And then birth rates, we talked about that a little bit ago. And then enrollment trends. So you will notice that the number of kids born in Shenandoah County versus the number that come to school, there's always a difference. You'll notice the kindergarten class of 2020, the students that were born in 2020, and the number of students, kids that were born versus the number of students in our kindergarten classes. There's a significant difference there. However, those students could have been born late, in 2020, and so we may not see them until next year. Free and reduced lunch eligibility, that has increased over the last 4 or 5 years. Our English learners have increased over the last 11 or 12 years. We're at 651, and we speak how many different languages? Miss Proctor? It's like 16.
Yes.
With Spanish the top and maybe Amharic second. Our students with disabilities, you'll notice pretty flatlined over the last 10 years. But you will notice the number of students we have with 504 plans is decreasing over the last 4 or 5 years. And why is this important to budget? Because typically students with a 504 plan or a student with a disability, actually we have special services that we have to provide those students, so it costs a little more money for students with disabilities and our students with 504 plans. So if you look at our personnel information, and I am just going to scan through this because you have seen this a couple of times, but we are losing our teachers at the top of our pay, and we are replacing them with brand new teachers. And we would really like to keep a lot of our teachers with many years of experience so that they can mentor our new teachers. We lose our teachers to Rockingham, Frederick, Harrisonburg, and Winchester. And our unfilled positions as of January the 16th, about 2 weeks ago, we still have 8 elementary teachers and 6 special ed teachers. And I always hate to put this slide up, but when you compare our salaries with the salaries of Frederick County and Rockingham County, you will notice that Shenandoah compared to Frederick County, we are slightly lower than Frederick County. And then for Rockingham, we are slightly lower, I think, for the first 6 steps, and then we catch up and we remain above Rockingham for the next, for the remainder of the salary scale. And only have the first 19 years here on this chart. One of the things that we are very proud of, and the school board should be proud of as well, we have made great gains on our health insurance over the last number of years, over the last 4 or 5 years. Health insurance is affordable here in Shenandoah County Public Schools. However, we do anticipate a slight increase in our health insurance this coming year, and hopefully it won't be as high as we've anticipated. But you can see we're in the mix with Frederick and Rockingham. Our employee only, we are the cheapest insurance, and then our employee plus spouse, we're also the least expensive. We have a little work to do when it comes to employee plus children, but the other 2, employee plus child, we're in the mix, or employee plus family, we're in the mix as well. And then to look at it differently, you'll see our health insurance decreases over the last 3 years. I can tell you our employee plus children and employee plus family 5 years ago was $1,249. So we have almost cut that cost in half, and that is real money in our teachers, in our staff's pockets. So we've done a great job, and we want to continue to keep these rates competitive so we can keep our teachers. All right, so my job is to provide a needs-based budget to the school board, and the school board then hands the budget. They will debate, and then they will hand the budget off to the Board of Supervisors mid-March. So, and then the Board of Supervisors, we have to get our budget to the Board of Supervisors by the 1st of April every year, and then they'll return the information back to us towards the end of April, and then you guys have a second opportunity to look at the budget in case they gave us more money than we asked for or less money than we asked for. So here are some of the dates that our budget timeline And you will notice we are right at, so this was supposed to be the January 26th meeting, so we're at the pre-budget hearing and then the school board pre-budget work session. Gives you guys an opportunity to tell me what you would like to see in the budget, because on Thursday, February the 12th, I will present my recommendation to the school board. And our budget books, our draft budget books will be available. Then February 23rd gives the school board an opportunity to talk about my proposed budget. And then on March the 12th, the school board will approve a fiscal year 2027 budget, and then it will go to the Board of Supervisors. You will notice mid-March, the General Assembly concludes. So we may not know exactly the state funding that we will have before we have to turn that budget over to the Board of Supervisors. The Board of Supervisors then have a work session with the school board on March the 16th. March the 17th, they meet to establish a tax rate for advertising purposes. And then on April 6th, they hold their public hearing for the proposed budget and tax rate. April 14th, they have a meeting to propose the budget and tax rate. And then on April 27th, the school board comes back together to determine what our fiscal year 2027 budget is going to be and adopt it. So our sources of revenue, we get 37% of our revenue from the county and 57% of our revenue from the state. 4% from federal and 2% other. You can see our federal revenue over the last number of years has been up and down, but it typically, in a normal year, it will stay around $3 million, a little over $3 million. These years that have more than $3 million, that is probably CARES funds that attributed to that increase. So how does the state determine a locality's ability to pay? They come up with a local composite index. And those indicators are based on true property value, it's based on adjusted gross income, and then taxable retail sales. And you will notice over the last couple of years, our LCI, local composite index, increased 4% 2 years ago. It actually decreased this year 2%. So that 4% increase actually cost us about $2 million in state funds. So hopefully with the 2% decrease, we will claim some of that money that we lost from state funds over the last couple of years. So we will see. State funding, you can see it has a little increase every single year. County operational over the last 8 years. And then 2 different ways to look at how we spend our money. So if you look at this pie chart, we spend 61.1% in personnel and then 26.7% in benefits. So if you add those 2 numbers together, about 88.8% of our money is spent on people. And we know, and I know you've heard me say this more than one time, that our teachers make the difference in the classroom. That's the ones who get students to learn and make the magic happen. So, and we put our money in our staff. So close to 90% of our funds are spent on people. And then if you look at a different way, a little over 75% of our funds are spent on instruction. So again, we are focusing on where we know it's most important for our students, and that's in people and instruction. So just briefly, Governor Youngkin, before he left office in December, proposed the 2026-2028 budget. He actually left office in January. And you could see that He included in there to fully fund the state share of rebenchmarking. He included a 2% salary increase for fiscal year '27, a 2% for fiscal '28, fiscal year '28. He expanded the child care subsidy, and he also had additional funds for school construction grants. So hopefully in the near future, we'll be able to take advantage of those school construction grants. And then for an amendment for this current budget that we're in, he recommended a 2% bonus for all staff. We will see where that lands at the end of when the General Assembly meets, so we'll see where that ends up. The 2% bonus could be, at the end of the day, a $1,000 bonus for everyone. We will see what that looks like. We're not sure. Have you heard anything new on that?
Ma'am.
Neither have I. General Assembly's meeting now. I was hoping last week I would get information on where the budget committees were, and I do not have any new information on that. So hopefully in the next week or so, we'll get some information on where the budget, the Senate budget and the House budget committees are. And then again, that's just the timeline. And at this time, I would like for you guys to share any information with me that you would like to see in the budget, in the fiscal year '27 budget, so that we can, and it looks like Ms. Campbell was taking notes.
I'd like to see us revisit the special ed stipend. If we're not going to do a different pay scale for them, I mean, that's our shortage every year is sped teachers, and that's our most vulnerable students. I think the least we can do is give those teachers a stipend to at least attract them back into the sped classroom.
Anyone else?
I do have one question. In the sources of revenue, all funds, what exactly is other? What's that other 2%?
Yep, so it's rebates.
Rentals of our buildings, if the community rents them or Parks and Rec uses them for Kids Rec and pays them to us. Rebates, surplus sales, those types of things.
Okay.
Local grants also fall in that. If we get an endowment or a trust that provides us with funds, that would also fall in the other bucket.
Okay.
Good question. Any other thoughts? All right, moving on.
Moving on to 3.3. Mr. Hensley, Capital Improvement Plan.
While he gets the PowerPoint loaded, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the PowerPoint's the same PowerPoint that you saw before. I just want to highlight some things and then take questions from you, both Ms. Campbell and Mr. Farmer's here also. He can help us too with some of the facility things.
I don't have a presentation. You said you weren't going to use one, that you were just going to.
Oh, okay. It's on here. There. It's on the actual, no, February 2nd. Board member. So going through that presentation, the one thing that we pointed out to you was the utilization percentage of the elementary schools, where it was 89% at Ashby Lee, and at Sandy Hook there was 96 and 90% on that presentation. The other thing that we did as we go through and do our capital, we do our desirable, necessary, and urgent to identify what projects we want to work with. The one thing that we talked about during our presentation to you is that the desirable projects that are on there, they are desirable, but they're somewhat urgent too. It's just how it falls within the rubric that we have, and that's something that Ms. Campbell and I were talking about, that we need to go back and revisit our scale that we use of a rubric so that it's more balanced, because if it falls in transportation, or let's say a fence, the softball fence that needs to be repaired at Stonewall Jackson may not go to urgent, but it has holes in it and needs to be replaced. The funding that this year, as far as our capital improvement, CIP, it's going to be a lot more because we typically narrow down what we ask for. One thing that has been asked is like, why are you not asking for it if it's a need? So we've made sure that we're asking for what we need. When we get into our major capital that we're asking for, transportation in the first year was 1.2 million. Health and the safety and security was $1 million. And HVAC was 15.9 million. And the reason why the HVAC at 15.9 million is because we are currently using 1.5 million on renovations that we could do at the elementary schools. We're working with Train. Mr. Farmer and his group has been working tirelessly with them to see what we need to do to upgrade our systems. What we have found out through that process is that it's going to be a total of around 15 million by the time we finish to do those projects in total, all 3 elementary schools. The one thing to point out that's important to that is that if those projects get strung out, obviously there is a cost to that too, that increases year by year of the equipment that may increase also. Oh, yes. The controllers, we are also asking for controllers in the first year because we have controllers at our older schools, such as Central, that we may have 3 controllers on our shelf, but after those controllers are gone, we cannot purchase them any longer. So you all have this presentation in front of you that breaks it down by category, and at this time we would ask you which categories that you have questions on that breaks down to individual items for transportation, safety and security, HVAC, roofing, electrical, plumbing, equipment replacement, athletic facilities, and minor construction. So the questions that you all have from your last presentation, after you've looked through, what questions do you have for us?
You were just talking about Mr. Farmer and his crew meeting with Train. Does it look like that those renovations will be able to be done either over the summer or while the schools are in session?
So the intent would be that those projects would be, those upgrades would be during the summer, at the end of the school term until, so we're looking at the period of June through August.
So it is practical to get those done over the summer?
Yes. Now this approach would be a phased, where each section, it will take a series of time at the elementary school to be able to complete those items based off of however much of the budget's approved. So those areas would be during that period of time. So there would not be any interruption.
Thank you.
What questions other than HVAC do you have?
Well, staying on HVAC, you just mentioned Central. Is that Central Campus or the high school?
So we have aging controllers at all of our schools.
Okay.
And one of the processes that we're working with Train is how do we renovate our current systems and pull controllers out and save them for when other controllers go down because we cannot purchase them. So that's part of that process.
Right, but at the end of those extra ones that we have, we need new, need new equipment at the other schools too.
Yes.
So, all right.
So, and as we pull, and Kevin can correct me if I'm wrong, as we start renovating, especially our elementary schools, we can start pulling controllers from there too. We have certain places that are in the same boat as our elementary school, like our science wings in our high schools, that have humidity issues. And that's part of the money within the first part too.
How far are those from being urgent on when are they going to come up and move up the list from those other schools on these CIPs?
I think we're in the first year.
Are they?
First year.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Okay.
Do they have software that will talk to the old controllers, the obsolete ones, and the new controllers we're buying at the same time?
So yes, because we currently have the BAS system, which does communicate, but once it becomes functionally obsolete, then no.
Gotcha.
Did you guys see anything on the list that that you would like to see moved to a year sooner or a year or two later? Now's the time. So this will be part of the budget presentation at the February 12th meeting. You'll have an opportunity to discuss it again at the February 23rd meeting and for vote at the March 12th meeting.
One thing important to note, as you look through, you'll see red writing. When you see the red print, that means it can be impacted by another project. So that cost could be impacted by doing something. So if we work on the elementary HVACs, it could impact the cost, such as a AC unit on a gym. But we left those AC units on the gym because they're up to be replaced and need to be replaced. So they're still there. The same way, I'm sorry.
Can somebody point out to me where I can find Stonewall Jackson's roof replacement at on here?
That's on the current year.
That's been funded.
It's already been funded.
Okay.
That's in the current funding cycle.
So will that be done this year, like this summer?
We're currently looking into that. So I just recently supplied the vendor with the current need for the layout that we have, so that the money that we have set aside for not just Stonewall Jackson but for Strasburg High School, to make sure that they are clear on what the scope is. And then once the snow and ice melts off, then we'll do along with Skyline, a survey to make sure that what we have currently approved funded will actually fund those, so that if we have to make some changes based off of their monetary estimate pricing, then we can address it at that time.
Thank you.
Anything else? Then let's move to 3.4, discussion of proposed changes to policy FFA. School board member requested revisions to this policy, school names, specifically the removal of language stating that no school or school facility may be named for a living individual, and that individuals must be deceased for at least 10 years to be considered. The initial information was presented on Thursday the 8th. It is about to be further discussed now. And Ms. Carlenio, this was your request, and I will pull you into the conversation and let you lead off.
Well, I spoke about it last time. I just said that maybe we needed to revise this, since we may be, this is something that we are probably going to be wanting to do. And if anybody has any questions, I don't know, are we going to be discussing it today, or we're not voting on it today, right?
No, we're not voting on this today.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm just open to any discussion.
Then the floor is open for discussions and questions.
Yeah, I did look at your proposed revisions, and I saw a couple other holes in the policy that I thought were repetitive from the beginning, where it mentions that, names of persons serving Shenandoah County's schools on a full-time basis shall not be considered. Well, what if you were serving on a part-time basis? That was kind of a loophole. So I did write up a few changes for for the board members, just to, for the two areas that you had highlighted, that I thought were a little more encompassing for the, for the changes. And I'll read them to you, Gloria, since you're not here and you won't see this.
Okay, thank you, yes.
Yeah, so after that, schools and school facilities may be named for individuals who have been deceased for at least 10 years. And, and prior to that, no school or school facility shall be named for a living individual. So my suggestion was that we cross those two out and change it to, there shall be no requirement that individuals be deceased, nor deceased for any minimum number of years in order to be considered for the naming or dedication of a school, school facility, or area of a school facility. And then going down to the second to last paragraph in it, that the names of persons serving Shenandoah County Public Schools on a full-time basis shall not be considered. I thought the appropriate change would be names of individuals who are currently employed by Shenandoah County Public Schools, whether full-time, part-time, temporary, or contracted, shall not be considered for the naming or dedication of any school, school facility, or area of a school facility. So that basically rules out any current employees, and it would not rule out any employer, former employees, or more appropriately coaches, because we do name football fields and things after coaches who were current. This would sort of make it wait till they retire, but that would be a good thing to have at a retirement ceremony. And those are all the changes I had.
Can you repeat that one again, please?
The whole thing?
One, yes.
Yep. Names of individuals who are currently employed by Shenandoah County Public Schools, whether full-time, part-time, temporary, or contracted, shall not be considered for the naming or dedication of any school, school facility, or any area of a school facility. It basically just rules out current employees.
Originally the change, I think, for that one, you're talking about the last sentence of the next to last
Yes,
paragraph.
where I believe Shenandoah County Public Schools was crossed out and Shenandoah County was left. So that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah, 'cause it was just a matter of not just making it Shenandoah County Schools, it was gonna be about all Shenandoah County.
Okay.
So it kind of changes a little bit, but, so I don't know if you wanted to change from your suggestion, just take out public schools and just say Shenandoah County.
But would that enable anybody currently employed or serving Shenandoah County? That's where I thought there was kind of the loophole, because it said on a full, the full-time basis and all. So.
Right, but, which I'm fine with, what I'm saying is, it's not just for, not just for the public schools, but also for, we don't have any employees right now from Shenandoah County.
Right.
Basically, the reason for this was I wanted the public school employees to be treated the same as Shenandoah County employees.
Got it. Well, I think we want the same thing, just a matter of the verbiage, but we can, I'll email something over and we can figure that out.
Sure.
All right.
Yep.
Further questions and comments?
I just wanted to thank Board Member Scheibe for his response to an email we all received earlier, I believe today, about this policy change. I take it you researched the City of Alexandria Public Schools and their policy, because you quote it, and I just wanted to thank you for bringing that to our attention so that we had something to reference. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Appreciate it. No problem.
That's it. Getting the nod, so I guess it's time to move on. Thank you, Ms. Carlinio. How's the weather over there? How's the weather?
Oh, it's usually. It's fine.
Well, stay safe.
Yeah, thank you.
Committee assignments for 2026. Dr. Shepherd.
So in front of you at your table are the committee assignments for this calendar year, and I believe most of you weighed in on what you wanted your committee assignments to be, and I think everyone received their choice. So it's in front of you for your information.
I took requests. I don't know about the balance, and everyone responded, so I think we have good committee representation, good diversity. Mrs. Proctor, targeted support and improvement plan for Sandy Hook and W.W. Robinson.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let's get this up. So we're going to switch gears a little bit and let's talk about some instruction now. So as we discussed at our last meeting, we have two schools that are targeted support and improvement, which is Sandy Hook and W.W. Robinson. And so we got some clarification from the state on the requirements that we need to make sure that we're satisfying for both of these schools. So we're going to go through that this evening. And it is on just informational this evening, but then in next week on the 12th, it will be an action item for you all to approve this plan. That is one of the requirements that the board has to approve the plan. So as we go through, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to stop me and ask. So as we talked about last time, our identification is specific to students with disabilities at both of the schools. This presentation is going to talk about why, what is being done, and how progress will be monitored. So what is targeted support and improvement? I discussed this last time, but just to review, this is something that is reviewed annually by the state. Schools are identified when a student subgroup performs below the state benchmark, and this is not a permanent, it can change from year to year. So what are the steps that we had to go through? So we have to create a 3-year plan, and that plan has to have a root cause analysis. It has to have evidence-based interventions. It has to have annual goals and progress monitoring, and it has to have alignment across systems. So this past week, we worked with W.W. Robinson and Sandy Hook to look at our root cause analysis, and we're going to talk a little deeper about that. So what did we find out? Well, we basically found out that there's a disconnect between general education and special education. Instructional planning and implementation were often occurring in parallel rather than together. Students with disabilities are experiencing inconsistent instructional approaches across settings, and this lack of alignment limited consistent access to grade level content. So basically what that means is we had gen ed and special ed working in silos. The teachers weren't always working together, and that's not necessarily because of choice, it's just sometimes it happens, maybe because of scheduling conflicts, inexperience in maybe the special ed teacher or the gen ed teacher. And so what are the things that we're going to do to rectify that? So we're going to increase mastery outcomes for students with disabilities, and we're going to do this by continue strong performance for all students. If we bring up our SPED students, that's ultimately going to bring everybody's achievement up. And we also have to focus on reading, math, and science for this plan. So we have to have evidence-based interventions, and so each school that is targeted for support and improvement has to pick 2 evidence-based instructional practice. Each multi-year school support plan must include 2 of those, and they must also address math and reading. And so that also has to be based off of the needs assessment that we have done. And so I just wanted to point out, for those of you that may not know, the difference between evidence-based intervention and a research-based intervention. An evidence-based intervention is something that the program or the method has been demonstrated through research, And a research-based program is something that has components that are research-based. Not the whole program has been evidence-based. And research-based hasn't been subject to rigorous control testing, and it often relies on the different pieces that are research-based. So I just wanted to point that out. So let's talk about what our two schools picked. And they actually both picked the same evidence-based interventions. So for reading, for K through 3, we're going to focus on explicit decoding and word analysis instruction. And in grades 4 through 5, multisyllabic word reading and complex text. And the goal of this is to improve accuracy, fluency, and comprehension so that all students are able to perform reading on grade level content. And in math, we're going to use concrete and visual representations, and this builds conceptual understanding before abstract skills. Consistent practices across general and special education. So what does this mean in everyday language? That means we're going to start with using manipulatives for kids so that they're using hands-on materials that help them understand the conceptual knowledge behind the math concept so that they can have a better foundation. And then we're also going to do the same thing in science, because science also lends itself to having some conceptual understandings before they move to abstract. So introducing models and representations for things in science. That also helps them understand scientific reasoning and vocabulary. So how are we going to do this? Well, we're going to have targeted professional development for our teachers. Unfortunately, this will have to be after school. But it will give them undivided time to focus in on these EBIs. There will be facilitators at each school that will be able to help teachers through this process, and it will be a collaborative approach. It won't be teachers saying, okay, teachers, here's what you need to go back and do, go do it. It will be more of a, let's talk about this method, and then how does that look in practice next week when we're introducing this skill in math or reading or science, so that they're actually incorporating it right into their plans. Any questions so far?
I have a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
In regard, when you say after school, what's the frequency of that? And
Great question. So it will be once a week. And so 1 hour of it will be working collaboratively, and then another hour of it will be working independently. So they'll get paid for 2 hours of work every week.
How quickly will we know whether this plan is working or not?
Well, that's a great question. That goes right. Thank you for the segue into my next slide, which is monitoring progress. So the first thing we'll be doing is classroom walkthroughs. We'll be going into classrooms to see if are we seeing manipulatives? Are we seeing students working on those decoding skills in K3 classes or multisyllabic words in the upper grade levels? We'll also be able to see it in our student data, benchmark data, mastery data, and then we also do our quarterly reviews with our administrators, and so hopefully we'll see it in that data. But just keep in mind that student data is a delayed response. We're going to see it in teachers before we're going to see it in student data. So it will take a little bit before the student data is going to catch up with what our teacher data is. So the first thing we're going to be looking for is that first bullet, classroom walkthroughs. Are we seeing it in practice? And that will be easy for us to do as a team. We already do those. We go into classrooms all the time.
And in best case scenario, we should have been identified as TSI schools in August, so we could have implemented this all year. Unfortunately, we didn't get our data until December. Are you going to go over this?
No, okay. I was going to bring it up, but
yeah,
you're perfect
yeah,
to bring it
but
up.
we didn't get our information until December. So we're putting together a process mid-year where it would have been great if we would have been able to start it at the beginning of the school year.
And so we do have the structure already in place where we're going in and doing classroom walkthroughs. We're already meeting with our administrators at our Friday focus meetings. So the structures are in place. The biggest change will be just having the teachers work on the EBIs. And I will tell you, the EBIs that the administrators picked, the decoding and the manipulative CRA, really are things that we're already doing in our schools. It's not like we're adding something new. These are things that we're already doing. We just need to get better at it.
Yeah, that was going to be my question was, how much more of a or how much of a change would this be on the individual instructors? And then my other question is, who is the we that goes in the classrooms and oversees this stuff? Like, who exactly is your team?
So it would be myself, Ms. Heingardner, Ms. Bossy, Craig Scher, and Maggie Gavello, who are math people. So those 5 folks. And then also our SPED folks have now joined us. And so they now come to the Friday Focus meetings, and they're also doing walkthroughs. So we have Ms. Baker, we have Ms. Janelle, and Ms. Mumal, and Ms. Ames joining that group.
Excellent.
So lots of folks. Not everybody goes to the same school, though. We've kind of divided up and deployed.
Well, that's what I was kind of wondering, too.
Yes, yes.
That would be a lot for a few amount of people, so.
Right.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. And as Dr. Shepard was saying, it would have been beneficial to know this information back in the fall. However, we didn't, and I would anticipate this will be the trend until things get ironed out, because we still, like, our accountability system is still new, and we're on a delay getting all of our data. So until the state figures all of that out, this is going to be how it is for a while. That's my guess. So how does this plan address the disconnect? It's establishing shared instructional expectations across gen ed and special ed. It aligns core instruction, intervention, and tutoring to the same instructional routines, provides joint professional development, so the special ed teachers and the gen ed teachers are getting the same PD together, and then it monitors the implementation through walkthroughs, planning reviews, and student data. So each school will be getting $45,000 approximately, and that money will go towards PD for teachers for after school in the areas of reading, math, science, and it will go to also to the special ed teachers. Because Sandy Hook has a few teachers less, that money goes a little farther for them, and so they are also planning to use some of those funds for paraprofessional training and tutoring for students after school. We are going to do the same thing at W.W. Robinson. We're just going to have to use alternative funding sources for that. So some of it may still come from All in Virginia, and some of it may come from Title I. So we'll be supplementing with other funding sources for W.W. Robinson because they have more teachers. Questions? I went through that very fast.
Using the paraprofessionals, is that going to meet the SPED requirement?
So this would just be for them to understand if they're in a classroom working with a teacher and there's a student that's struggling with decoding, then they know what are the strategies that our gen ed teachers are using so that they can be using the same language. It's not necessarily for them to be providing the main instruction. It's more of a support layer.
Gotcha, thank you.
And they do work with small groups, and so if they are working with a small group, they also understand that. Especially in math, like if you aren't used to using the manipulatives in math, that could be something that's new to you, and so that really helps, everybody's on the same wavelength, everybody's on the same page as far as how we use them, so that you're not saying it one way and then another teacher saying it another way, and we're creating confusion inadvertently.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Sorry, just
No,
about
you're fine.
after school. I just want to make sure that our staff are, being reimbursed for the extra work that they're
Yes.
going to have to do. And you said it's just one day a week. Has it been explained to them exactly how they will be reimbursed for that time?
So it has not, no, they have not been part of that process yet. They know things are coming, but they don't know the specifics yet. So we're in the process this week of working with our administrators at those two buildings about how they will be rolling all of that information out to their teachers. So Sandy Hook will be starting next week, hopefully, if everything goes well and we don't have any more snow days and delays. Robinson will be a week behind because we have a work day on the 13th, a professional day on the 13th, and so they're going to start some professional development on that day, and then the after school will start that following week for them. But yes, they will get reimbursed. They will be, the way we've done it in the past is each facilitator for their sessions will take attendance and then they'll get paid at the end of the month for the amount of sessions that they've done. And we just share that spreadsheet with finance and they make sure they get paid.
They're gonna be on a voluntary basis?
No, everybody has to go. If you're a reading, a math, a science, or special ed teacher.
They all go at the same time, or they take turns?
So it's a rotating, 1 week it's reading, the next week it's math. Well, that's the way it is at Sandy Hook. At Robinson, all reading and math is 1 week, and then science is the next week. So. If you're a K, depending on which school you're at, if you're at Robinson and you're a K3 teacher, you're going every week because you have reading, math for K3. If you're a 4th or 5th grade teacher, you're going every week because 1 week it's reading or math, depending on what you teach, and then next week is science. If you teach science. Some teachers might not have to go every week.
Ms. Proctor, this is very similar to what we did at Ashby Lee, Signal Knob, and Peter Muhlenberg over the last couple of years. Yes.
The difference is there's a multi-year plan that had to be written this time. In the past, we just had to write a plan that addressed it for the remainder of that year. And it didn't have to have board approval in the past. We tried to be mindful that teachers would be doing work on their own, so that's why we did 2 hours, so that 1 hour is together and the other hour is really accepting their professionalism that they're going to go back and work on these things on their own, because they do. The facilitators also will get paid for their time, for facilitating and for planning.
Good.
And our facilitators are typically coaches
And so all the administrators have identified the leaders in their grade levels. And so we actually have a lot of teacher leaders as well.
That paid at an overtime rate?
No, it's $35 an hour, which is what we pay our teachers when they do extra things. And if any of them do tutoring, they also get paid the $35 an hour. That is voluntary.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I will also attach next time for you, or I can send it to you now, the actual multi-year plan. This is just the summary of it, but it's a lot of stuff. But I'm happy to send those to you if you would like those.
Yeah, please do it.
Okay.
You're the only one who didn't give us a pile of handouts. I was a little disappointed.
You're welcome.
You lightened their load.
I'll just have Cheryl attach them to tonight's meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, we're in the home stretch. Board member comments and other business. Mr. Chavi. District 1.
Well, I just want to say I appreciate all the work the board's doing, and our staff, as always, and teachers who are continuing to work hard and who had a rough day today in the elementary schools with all those kids who were cooped up for a week, and then came back and, kind of jumping off the desks from what I heard. So just I appreciate all you do every day. And I want to say something to everyone who's here tonight, elected officials and citizens alike. We are, at least me personally, I'm trying to consume and process all this information that has been coming out over the last 6 months or a year or however long. But this is a huge decision for us to make on the future of the county. So we want to get it right. So give us a little more time. We will be actually voting on some things here in early March. So be patient. And like I said earlier, I am well aware that most of what we're talking about in the CIP is no longer wants, it's needs. So we just have to figure out, how much we can afford and how much, the how much of an impact the new taxes that are coming in the Commonwealth and everything and the reassessments are going to be. So this is complicated, but if it was up to me, we'd have 10 new school buildings tomorrow, but it's just not realistic. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Street is absent. Ms. Carlinio, District 3.
Give me a second. I'm going to pass for now. I'm looking for something, so I'll let the next person go.
That's me.
Coming back.
Four. I assume.
Okay. Ms. Pence, District 4.
Well, I did just write down a few things. I just want to piggyback on what Mr. Scheibe had to say, just so that our teachers, our staff, the school board, the central office staff understands that we are aware that we have some significant decisions that will definitely affect our students, staff, and families and taxpayers for decades. And so, as we continue this discussion, I just want the public to know that just myself, my priority is that, we remain focused on the educational impact, the fiscal responsibility, as well as minimizing the disruptions for our students and staff while we're making decisions that we can stand behind for years to come. So we understand the weight that's on us, and I think there are a few of us who are going to continue to push, like, where are we? Let's keep moving forward. So I just want to say that publicly, that we're not backing down on this, but like Mr. Scheibe said, again, it doesn't happen overnight. And then in regards to just being out of school for a whole week, I too want to thank our teachers and staff and building administrators who have sat through this whole 2-hour meeting. I appreciate you after you've had a very long day already. And just continue to thank the folks who are actually the boots on the ground in our buildings, and the folks from Triplet that also have been here meeting after meeting, just making sure that we see your faces and we won't forget you. So, thanks.
Mr. Rickert, District 6.
First thing I wanted to say was thank you all the constituents, staff that showed up to voice what they thought are urgent needs when it comes to the CIP. And I definitely hear you all. I appreciate all of you all showing up time after time. The other thing I wanted to talk about was recently I had procured a free program for our school division. It was through PragerU. It was a kids book fair in a box. It was free for the first 3 school districts that responded, and I was one of those 3 that responded. And we had board member support, majority, so we met with them and they were sending it out to us free of charge. Here recently I heard that somebody had backed out or something, so Dr. Shepard was asked to cancel it. We've since found out that it already shipped. I'm going to ask that we keep it when it comes in until we have proper open discussion in front of the public, because we do other book fairs and I don't know if they receive the same scrutiny that this is receiving, but I would like to see us have open discussion about that at our next board meeting. I also heard a rumor from some parents that somebody on this board had said a new elementary school is not happening. I don't know who that came from on the board, but I found it very intriguing, and I assured that those parents that no vote had been taken, no proper discussion had been taken. I actually heard it from somebody here tonight that they had heard it. I'd like to caution whoever it is, if it is in fact true, since I've heard it from several people, I would be surprised if it's not. We are a board of 6 members, so it does take a vote to approve anything or disapprove anything, so I would ask that whoever it is, please caution what you're saying to the public, because if you're talking in one element and it's being perceived in another, we have to be kind of cautious as to how we say things, I guess. Other than that, I thank the staff. Thank you all for showing up at these meetings and putting up with all this stuff and spending all this additional time. I know your days are long enough, but we appreciate everything you guys do. Thank you.
Ms. Carlinio, are you ready to go?
Yes, so, there was something I want to talk to you about, but I'm going to talk about it the next time. I want to thank everybody for giving me this opportunity to be able to call in through Zoom, or Google Meet. It is, yeah, my driveway is very narrow and, barely can get out. So I didn't want to have to, risk it tonight. But, thank you for all the work that the staff has put together for this, budget process. It's very complicated, but we are gonna be looking through it. And I do want to echo the two things that Mr. Ricker talked about. One is regarding what we're gonna move forward. I haven't heard those rumors, but I do hope that all the school board members will have an open mind as to what we should be doing next. And I also want to second what he said about the situation with the PragerU book fair. I do believe that this is something that we're going to have to speak to in the meeting, so we can all talk about it and the community can know what it is that we're doing or not doing. And as I said, I think this debate and some of the rumors, again, what I've heard has been through Dr. Shepherd. We thought that we had an agreement on this, we had a majority of the board, and that's why we proceeded with this. And to now have to cancel after we had already agreed with it, makes it look very badly and very unprofessional on our part. But it also raises question as to some of the other book fairs and whether they do deserve more scrutiny that we have not given them. So I think this is something that's going to be a debate that's going to get started because of the situation. So maybe that's a good thing. But other than that, I thank everybody, and I know the kids are ready to go back to school, or they'd rather just stay at home, but we'll thank everybody, and let's hope that we don't get more snow tomorrow and Wednesday, as it has been predicted. So we'll see. But yeah, thank you for the opportunity to
Thank you. I would rate this a capital Q quality meeting for all of you who joined in the conversation. Enforcer strong, right, Ann? Inside joke. Quality input produces quality output more often than not. And this has been quality all around. And I thank all of you. It's only 9:03, so you've been very patient, very kind, and I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Rickard. Is there a second?
Second.
And Mr. Scheibe seconds. All in favor of adjournment indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Hearing none, unanimous consent to adjourn. Meeting again on February the 12th.
That's right.